Hi friends. I honestly don't know if I have anything to say. I thought I'd use a little avatar here and couldn't get satisfied with them, and so played with the lighting. It's not just right, but it'll do. I like it a little too bright. It's fun. So, I guess I'll get a couple of things off my chest. I don't know if it's disgust or what, but scientism, you know, people that have this religious dogmatic belief in what science says, I find that very old. And not open in the least. They're not interested in truth. They're interested in maintaining their structures, and their reputations, and their ideas. It's a little bit like people that will make a comment or reply to one of your comments and just absolutely blast you, or blast a video that they've just watched. And sometimes I want to say, and who made you God? You know? What gives you such confidence to believe that your way of seeing is the way, is correct? Oh my goodness, are we going to get to see Cuddles here? Here he is! Oh, and the mouse goofed up so I can't see the screen. I hope I've got him on it. He's a beauty. Well, that was fun. So, you know, I used to just leave it alone, but these days sometimes I pipe up and say something. It's a time for coming together. It's a time for a deep self-respect that can then flow out to our brethren. And maybe it's just my path speaking. See, here I'm acting like I'm speaking for everybody. But for me, it's a time to know that the only one I'm in charge of is me. And everybody else gets to be in charge of them. And there's nobody out there that needs to be telling other people what to do. It's ridiculous, or what to think, or that they're idiots, you know? It's like, oh my God. A lot of that I'm going to assume is from youth. We all know what it's like to be a teen or a 20s, or, you know, to think you know it all. It goes with the territory. And there's nothing really wrong with it. It's just coming out and condemning others. I'm finding I have no tolerance for that anymore. It's just uncalled for. So there's some ideas. So I'm going to say it's a time for separating out and coming together and doing both at the same time. So we'll start right off with a Mayan pretzel. I have a journal in my heart that hasn't yet come to paper or media, that's based on a Rupert Sheldrake presentation that is an absolute delight. Now, there's a scientist for you who left the herd, and he says, for me, I mean, I don't need to say things because he has said it so beautifully, and he's got the chutzpah, but he's also got the creds, you know. He's a scientist speaking out. And so I'll be doing that video shortly. I want to let that one simmer and heart a little bit. But meanwhile, I have one for you. Oh my goodness, what was that? Oh, it's my hairband. Called Separate Out. So come together and separate out at the same time. This is from January 9th, first one of that day, and the Mayan day was 10 storm. 10 to 13 is nice. That's a kind of a coming together, you know. It just seems to work out that way. Now, I have 3 links on this one. And how many of you know what a murmuration is? It's amazing. It's only 2 minutes. You've got to click over and see it. You've just got to. And then I have another by Dr. Jacob Liberman. I love that guy and the light that he radiates. And then finally, I'm also a fan of Michael Talbot, you know, the Holographic Universe. And so there's a link here that's almost an hour to one of his lectures. Rethinker. Okay, so let's go and see what's in here. As usual, I forgot. The time is now for this, my friends. The time to separate out. Now, what picture does your mind paint for you with these words? Separate out. What is your sense of it? And first, determine, is your sensing from mind or is it from heart? One way or another, get yourself within. Your kingdom of heart is calling you. Are you ready yet to answer? Are you even hearing it? Well, let's have a look. First, just based on the picture painted by these words, separate out, you can learn a few things. Not just whether you're in head or heart, more than that. You can see what you're identified with, flesh or spirit. How is your I defined? It matters. See to it. Be self-observant, my friends. There's no right or wrong in this. Just what is. For instance, if you're identified with essence, with spirit or higher self, then what does separate out mean? What do you see? Forget thought, or go to seeing and sensing instead. These are hard ways. Do you see the beauty of identifying with spirit? Do you sense the broad view, the vastness of that? Do you feel heart's call to come out from among them, to rise up above the body-mind? Feel the self pull away from all fleshly identification, all thinking the body is you. Separate out. Meanwhile, what do those see who are still poised in mind? See how they identify more with 3D than you do. Or is that you? Fear not to embrace it if that's the case. Nothing ever trumps truth, even when it hurts. Be real. Where we're going, there is no hiding of thoughts. Well, precious little. Get used to that. Be honest and open with what is with self. So, what does separate out mean to mind? Separate out from what? Or from whom? Realize that it's your beliefs that draw these lines and that you're still in charge of your beliefs. They can change if you do. Now let's not define this one too closely. We all have a mind. We all can have the sense of that thought. Meanwhile, do you see or feel yourself to be called out from the midst? Do you sense the great winnowing out going on? If you do, then you can see it in action in world affairs and the affairs on your block among your friends. Separate out. What does that mean to you? This is something that will be better gained and understood by sensing than by thought. And that's one way to separate out. You are far greater, far grander than mind yet has a clue. That being the case, it can't take you there. Rather, you will take it. And note the importance of your self-definition here. Separate out. What is it you'd like to leave behind? Now, please don't say 3D. That puts you in mind. If so, just go deeper inside. Be still. Look again. What do you feel heart calling you to leave behind? Is it in you? Is it outside? Get the sense of it, and only you can do that. Separate out. From what? If there are external things you feel called to leave behind, well, be careful with that. All movement is from micro to macro with this. And recall that the outside world is nothing but a reflection of inside. Those who really want to make change, they go within. It will reflect itself outside when it's done. It will do, not you. So, don't waste your time on external changes. That being said, the outside and the inside are not truly separate. It's also possible to make changes outside and see them reflected within. Just be careful with this one. It takes more mastery of mind. And how is your self-definition coming along? It's a critical piece of the puzzle. How can you separate out if you're not sure who you are? Things that make you go, Well, for now, let's presume you are spirit or consciousness, not flesh. What do you separate out from? I find it doesn't matter in this case. Heart guides every move when I'm centered. So the separating, it just happens with me more as the witness of that, being danced. I find it is energy sorting itself out, and energy can be represented in spirit or matter, even in self. There will be definite things that I am shedding, leaving behind as I separate out. Some elements of self must go. At the top of the list are both fears and beliefs. Separate out. Let them go. Don't force them away. Just allow. When you are ready, they go on their own. You wake up one day and they're vanished. They're gone. This one or that one. I mean, not necessarily all at once. They're no more comfortable with you than you are with them in your rising consciousness. So they separate out. Now, while you're at it, how much fun are you having? Be sure to lighten up and enjoy. Those heavy-duty commenters need to do this too. Best not to take this or the self too seriously. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, so it's said. I'd agree, for being a Capricorn, or the body having a Capricorn sun, I'm aware of that tendency to be so serious. Now, do I want to separate out from that? Well, mind would like to, of course, but I ignore it. What feels right? When it doesn't come clear, I just watch. The move will make itself when sorted out. It's ready when it's ready. I let the internal sorting continue. I trust that. Moving on. Let's look at people now, only not as their flesh forms. People are both more simple, but also more complex than that. They are energy, some of it tending higher and some lower. Chances are quite good you'll either find them leaving you or you leaving those who tend to the lower frequencies. That's their comfort zone. Just allow. We're all a combination of frequencies, yet we also have what could be seen as an overall tone. We're not seeing people as flesh bodies. Instead, we're seeing them as bundles of energy. We're getting the sense of how their energy feels to us. We're moving on, rising up in frequency. Some friends will come along and some won't. Okay, I'm going to step out for just a minute here. All this talk of rising up in frequency, you know, things are just happening. And it's nice to go along with the heart flow of that and trust it. But a frequency is a wave, is an energy, it is what it is. And I see the dimensions as being different frequencies, but did you know that no dimension is better than any other? 12D is no better than 3D. There's no better and worse. There's no good and bad. There's no right and wrong. These are 3D concepts that we've played with for a long while. And yet, we have this tendency to think, well, to equate higher frequency with being better. I'm about convinced, through some of Tony Petrinovich's work, Sacred Sarah, that it's not so much frequency that's at issue here, it's the coherence or incoherence of the wave that we are, of that frequency. Does it have equal peaks and valleys? Is it coherent, smooth, if you will? Or is it jangled and jagged and up and down and unreliable? So, apologies, that was really kind of out there, but you know, when you write something and then before you read it, you've moved on with some idea or another, I think you've got to speak up. I mean, it's just got to be real. It's got to be the best truth, the best understanding that we have, that we offer. Okay, so some friends will come along and some won't. And that's not our business. Let's keep our nose out of their business, the choices that they make, others, any others. Let's tend to our own at this point. And it's all that makes sense anyway, for we can't make someone else's choices for them. And they won't like it either. Even if they'd let us, it just wouldn't last. It wouldn't be real. Choice and free will belong equally to all. We're in charge of only the self. Now, if you can ride this out in heart, you'll see how truly effortless it all is. The choices seem to make themselves, and when they do, they feel right. Mind will object now and then, thinking to overrule heart. Well, if you allow that, you'll fairly quickly see how it just doesn't work. It doesn't feel good. You'll be back in heart soon enough. We're separating out more from energy than from people or things. What we don't resonate with anymore will find a way to leave us. It's quite effortless on one condition: if you remain true to yourself. When you live from essence or higher self, you walk with strength and integrity, and you watch everything take care of itself. Effortless. Overall, the thing to watch is the mind. Be alert. Mind won't agree with all of your choices, and that's fine, but it's better you stay alert so you don't sabotage yourself. We all do this at times, shoot ourselves in the foot, so to speak. It's due to our convoluted systems of belief systems, or BS. I like that. That's what's acting when you act against essence or integrity. So be alert, and you'll see this is almost always coming from mind. I don't see how this can be done by one who hasn't yet stepped back from mind. Mind can't police itself. And here again, self-definition comes into play. Those who see self as spirit or soul, as essence or what have you, these are best prepared for this step, or so it seems to me. What do I know? It doesn't help to tell mind to be alert. It's heart doing this sensing, not mind. How are you doing with this? Have you seen yourself in it? Is it reflecting you to you? For more and more of us, the personal will is falling away, is separating out. Watch and see how effortless this is. When we stick closely to the now, only self, we get into the effortless groove and just flow with it. A missing comma sometimes can throw you off. We enjoy being carried along. It builds confidence as we see the great choices being made, and so easily. We trust more and more in our essence, our inner self. We've been programmed in many directions that go against integrity. Many hardly know what that word means, and that's understandable. As we continue to quite naturally rise in frequency or in coherence, in consciousness, we watch the natural separating out that goes on. One thing we separate out from is mind. We don't leave it behind. We just realize it's not who we are. We, as spirit, take our power back from mind. Now, none of this is meant to be a fight. Don't fight yourself. Fighting self or others, it does no good. It's not the heart way. As soon as we catch the self fighting anything, let us step back. That's all, just take a step back, have a new look, just observe. When you do this from heart or from now-centered space, you'll be shown things. You'll be guided. Do take note. Effortless, remember? Until we step out and above mind, there's entirely too much internal static to hear clearly what heart or our guides have to say. Too much noise. Mind hamster wheeling never helped anyone's attunement that I know of. And find a way to ignore that. Effortless separating out. Once we begin to quiet down in whatever way that happens for us, our intuition kicks in, or kicks into high gear. Suddenly we begin to hear and feel the internal tuition, the intuition that's always been there, unheard before, or not consistently heard. Maybe now and then we'd have a flash of clear seeing, but where before it was spotty, now it clarifies, becomes a way of life. This is a major blessing that is already yours, but isn't accessed until you're ready by separating out, mostly from mind. We're reprogramming the self. We're taking our power back. We're separating out from all the programming that formed our earlier beliefs. As we do this, once again, our vision clarifies. Things that were confusing before now untangle and become clearer. The more old beliefs we weed out, the better our vision continues to get. We separate out from programming and old beliefs. As we stick with heart, with now, with quiet inner center, we now hear the inner voice, the still small one. Because it's that way, it helps us settle down and be quiet. We're on an upward light spiral here. Blessing builds on blessing. We're building or riding a momentum. Things get easier and easier to sort out. It's almost done for us. At some point, we begin to notice something strange. Not only do we receive our own inner guidance, but we start to realize that there are others standing by, ready to help. If it's your habit to pray, this will be helpful. No need to pray to your spiritual guide or to the light beings of your soul family, though, but do communicate. Why would that be? Why should we communicate with these beings? Can they not reach out and help us without that? Well, yes and no. Not so easily. Free will is at issue here. They can't just interfere unasked. They've got to be invited. At some point, you'll find yourself so cozy and at home with them that you'll find yourself giving them assignments. Mine tell me they like that. The more specific, the better. Your choice. I'll step out here again and say, how did they ever work with us if we never asked or invited them before, simply because we didn't know they were there? And I'll just say, issue a reminder. Your conscious mind is the smallest sliver of the total mind. And we do work with our guides, our soul family, our spiritual friends, just not necessarily from the conscious mind. A lot of times when this begins, the first place it shows up is in our dreams. But we do have interactions on deeper levels with them. It's just, it really gets a boost when we start to consciously integrate with them and communicate. Okay, so it's as we separate out from the din and the chaos of the world that we begin to better hear our inner guides. Well, let's look at that. The closer you observe, I'm sure you'll begin to see, as I did, that the din and the chaos are not in the world. They are properties of thought. Yes, we create them and project them by our perception, by our angle of view. Some are still so convinced the outer world is really outer and exists by itself. This that I'm speaking here doesn't yet make sense to them. How it's really their mind generating all the din and chaos. Their old, unreleased, unrecognized beliefs get in their way. Their vision isn't sufficiently clear yet, but it will be. It's awaiting their choice to have a more flexible perspective, an open mind. Imagine that. Don't force yourself into what doesn't feel right if you're still in this state. Be real. And it won't help. Just be open so that you can ponder, can consider among the possibilities. That's sufficient. Your intuition will take you the rest of the way when you allow it. Got to quiet down for that, though. When things aren't working, always look to the self. All of our answers are there. Now, ideally, this is all quite effortless. When it's not feeling like that, pause and step back mentally. Or step back from mind by just focusing on now or in heart. Perhaps you retain an old belief that things are not supposed to be easy. You know, no pain, no gain, that kind of thing. Old programming. Or perhaps a belief that says you don't deserve ease and such abundant blessings. Watch for such beliefs hiding out in the folds of your subconscious garment. Do you see how these changes need to be made internally? How they're not out there in the world at all. Yet, if you'll just stick to such a program, modified as your heart dictates, then you'll see your outside world definitely changing. And this is the best, the fastest way to bring change to it that I've found anyway. Now, however, and it's a big however, don't have expectations. It's a big one. They just get in the way. They're the vehicle you use to leave the now and visit the future. Not a good move generally. When we're off wandering among our expectations, we're not present to the self, to the still small voice. How can we be when the only place to find them is in the now? Do you see? Separate out from all expectations. Just drop them when you notice them. If you're self-observing, you will. You can do it. It's a choice. Be empowered, my friends. This is my desire for you and for all of us. In every upload are shared abundant blessings to give you a boost. Yet, of course, it all relies on your own free will choices. No one can make them for you. And just taking someone else's choices, no matter how wise they may seem, won't work either. It doesn't have sufficient integrity. Though it has more integrity than the sheeple and the sleeple are able to muster just yet. By just sticking close to now, close to heart, being empty, your inner voice becomes clearer and clearer. And pretty soon, you'll wonder how you ever lived without hearing it consciously. For of course, it's been speaking all your life. The powers that were did their very best to program us all so that we'd never find our way into our own kingdom of heart. This terrifies them. But don't focus on that. Anytime you come across a video or several that are bringing you down, push stop, push pause, turn it off, go within, do something else. That's what that uncomfortable feeling may be about. It's you calling out to you. Only now do you begin to really hear it, or to be able to interpret it as a call to go inside. This comes too with falling in love with the self, with the divine essence of you. As this love grows and blossoms, the fragrance of its flowers will entice you more often to go within, to be still. You'll find yourself treating the self with such tenderness, such sensitivity. We've been taught to be harsh with the self. More beliefs from which we now separate out. Let them go as you become a worthy lover of the self. At this point, your intuition seems to be skyrocketing, really taking off. Take a step back. See how this is the fruit, the fragrance of all of your separating out. As you let this and that go, let it be not important to you anymore. There's less and less chaos within. In the inner quiet that ensues, it's almost impossible to miss the divine guidance all around, so very close. Now I hope that at least some of this has opened a door or a window for you. I'm well aware that some of you are far beyond such basics, but don't be proud. Realize that there are gifts here for you too. In our empty, humble openness, we find everything that passes to be a beautiful miracle sent just for us. Source uses everything to speak to us. Would we but listen? It's the listening that is key. Yet it can't be done and done well until we separate out a bit. The more we let go of, the clearer our inner voice comes through to us and through us to those around us. Don't speak to others about this. Let Source do that. Let yourself be danced. Only then will you find just the right words, the right vibration come through you. Before then, though good intentioned, it's likely just mind speaking up. Be willing to hear the hard stuff as well as the pretty stuff, and that's Kismet snoring over there. Lovers of truth would have it no other way. I'll close with a favorite motto I keep close to heart. It's just as harmful to take offense as it is to give offense. Now, what would this do for peace if everyone took it up? If you'll ponder that deep in heart, it will give up its beautiful flowers to you. This is the motto of those who've done a good deal of separating out. Refuse to ever take offense. Only mind and ego do that anyway. Do you see? Once this motto becomes quite effortless for you to maintain, you can know you've come a good long way. And besides, when someone else is getting upset with you, if you're in heart, you're going to realize they're likely just projecting their own stuff. Everything they say is more a self-revelation than anything about you. We bless the world and each other most by just being. And being true to the self, to the essence. So, let us do less and be more, so the others we meet and pass by will get a whiff of the heavenly fragrance of a satisfied heart. Effortless peace. Namaste.